Hello my internet peeps, and welcome again to another video. Today I want to talk about a problem that I think, not necessarily a problem actually, but something that's happening more and more in gaming, and that is product placement. Now, I said it was a problem because sometimes it can be, and I just want to make it clear, I'm actually fine with product placement. It's happened in movies and TV shows for decades now, if not the better part of a century. And I think it's fine. It's a good way for developers to offset the cost of some of their games, and it can be fine, and people can be quite creative with it. However, there is then the other side of things, which is what I want to discuss today, which is product placement that is egregiously in your face and can commit the worst crime that any fictional piece of work can commit, whether it be literature or video games or movies. It makes you realise you're playing a game, which is the exact opposite of what games should be. They're supposed to be an escape from reality. How can you escape from reality when you're constantly being reminded that you're just playing a game? And I think that's a particularly bad sin for a fictional work to commit. And I want to get into then some of the, what I believe, the most egregious and the worst product placement I've actually seen in video games ever. Now, these aren't in any particular order, except for the last one, which I think is generally the worst and most in your face about it, and frankly just kind of annoying. So I'll leave that one till last though. Stick around if you want to see what I think the worst is. But otherwise, yeah, in no particular order. So from there though, let's go, and we'll start with so Darkened Sky. It is a medieval type-ish, I suppose, fantasy game that is all about your character in a fantasy world trying to find their lost mother using their mythical powers with their mystical staff, which, you know, is actually kind of a dope idea. It's kind of cool. So you probably won't be expecting how the magical staff is powered, and this seems like the perfect time to advertise Skittles? Yeah, this was actually a licensed Skittles game, and surprisingly actually not bad if I'm completely honest, but it was kind of weird. Like, the whole concept's kind of odd. Your powers, it's kind of like almost a Final Fantasy X sphere grid kind of system, but rather than being powered by orbs, you're powered by skills. And you use the skills to power the different abilities in your staff, whether that be walking on lava, or freezing time, or going small, making your character very small. It's just kind of weird, but actually not a bad game in total from what I understand. I never played it, it slipped me by. It came out in 2003, so yeah, it's just an odd concept, I think, and it's kind of cool that the developers did have a bit of fun with this, and I give them the credit for that, and they were quite creative. I understand that quite a lot of critics at the time thought it was far too odd and far too in your face about the fact of exactly what it was, which was a licensed Skittles game trying to ultimately sell you sweets. So yeah, I get that some people would have been kind of irritated by that, and a lot did find it explicit and very annoying. But we'll leave it at that then for Darkened Sky. Just quite an interesting concept, and I think worthy of being mentioned certainly on this list. If not necessarily a bad thing, definitely an odd thing that I think people weren't really prepared for. But we'll move on to our next topic of discussion. Pepsi Man. Or shall I say Pepsi Man? Yeah, so again, another licensed game, and this was a Japanese exclusive, and this one was just blatant. I mean, it's just one of the worst examples of a company just shilling their own product. The entire game is simply an advert for Pepsi. Unlike, at least with Darkened Sky, they tried to do something with the Skittles and bring it somehow into the plot. You are Pepsi Man, a superhero, effectively, whose goal and the whole point of the game is to deliver Pepsi, to thirsty patrons, to empty vending machines with a crowd gathering, and that's it. And to just throw even more Pepsi at you, a lot of the obstacles you have to face as you do your little run collecting all your Pepsi cans along the way are Pepsi related. such as big Pepsi billboards and enormous Pepsi trucks that just run out into the road and get in your way. And it's just, I don't know, I love Pepsi personally. It's too much Pepsi. Are a lot of other just direct licensed games out there, such as Zool for Chupa Chups, and also, you know, the little red dot that is the mascot for 7-Up? Yeah, they've had no less than 3 games made about them. It's literally a red circle. But, okay, we're going to leave licensed games behind now, though. I am, in the future, going to make an entire video dedicated to very, very bad licensed games, and, you know, maybe some good ones as well. But subscribe then if you want to see that and stick around. But for now, I'm just going to move on to more normal, more average, should we say, product placement instead of completely licensed games. So next up we have... Okay, and it's the Monster Energy drinks. You know, I think most people probably saw this one coming. It was very in your face, shall we say. And it wasn't actually that bad, to be fair, and they were at least worked into the plot to a reasonable degree. You know, they are high caffeine energy drinks, so they replenish your stamina. That makes sense. I like it. At least they're tying it in. At least it's not just they are there. It's not just some random billboard. But still, I think because so much focus is given to them and sort of loving, lingering shots. So yeah, it's, to me, just a little bit in your face. But it's actually genuinely not that bad, and I like the fact that they did, kind of like the Darkened Sky thing, tie it in with the gameplay as well, so rather than the plot with Darkened Sky. But still, I think it's alright. I don't think it's that bad, if I'm completely honest with you. Let's move on to my next game, and it's, once again, another Hideo Kojima game, so let's jump straight in. Okay, Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, Hideo Kojima apparently loves himself a little bit of product placement because all of Otacon's computers in his office are Macs, or Apple of one issue. He's got at least one Mac Pro, an iMac, the more recent version that just looks like a monitor with a little base to it, several MacBook Pros, and an iPod. Now, Snake also has an iPod. There is also further non-Apple product placement. The random magazines that used to just be generic magazine in the game have now become Playboys, so there is utterly no ambiguity as to what those magazines actually are. And finally, Vamp has a Sony mobile phone. Now, again, all of this isn't that bad, to be honest. It can be a little distracting. It really can. And let's really not get into the symbolism of a snake offering and shilling apples. I'm not going to get into that, but I'll let you take it from there, and we'll move on, shall we, to my final one, which I consider to be the very, very worst example of this in modern games. Final Fantasy XV. Wow, did this game really throw this out. I mean, there's some... I'll start with the more reasonable things. Okay, so all of your camping equipment, and you do a lot of camping in this game, is Coleman. Now, everything you see in the game can actually be bought from Coleman. I think that is pretty good product placement. That's how you should do product placement. But there are two outstanding examples. The first one, Cup Noodle. Right, there's an actual Cup Noodle van in the biggest city of Lestalem, and then there is an entire side quest dedicated to this, and it is effectively just a half-hour long advert for Cup Noodle about getting the best extra ingredient to add to your instant noodles. And honest to God, it just has the characters, particularly the character of Gladio, acting very out of character and looking directly down the quote-unquote camera and just shilling and talking about how great cup noodles are in a completely deadpan tone with no emotion behind what he's saying.
You know something? Going through all that trouble to make our own custom cup, it's made me appreciate cup noodles even more.
Perhaps we truly can't improve upon perfection.
It's not about finding the single best ingredient. It's about crafting that perfect blend of meat, egg, and shrimp. That harmony of flavors is key.
Now, in fairness, the voice actors did actually record 2 takes of the dialogue for this quest. One in earnest, genuinely trying to do their best, and the other one very sarcastic and deadpan, and they ended up going with the second one, which, honestly, at least they're being slightly self-aware. Even though self-awareness doesn't actually really help them in this instance, but I give them at least some credit for that. And then, of course, there is another one, which I think is almost as bad, if not as bad. This one really removed me from the game and just broke my suspension of disbelief. And that is in the largest city in the game, Altisha. There is a shop for Vivienne Westwood. And again, there's an entire quest surrounding this. So yes, the designer, the fashion designer, Vivienne Westwood, has a store in this fictional world. That is how far their reach goes. And I genuinely, this baffled me. Again, there's an entire quest around the fact that you've got to go find this shop to look at a dress in the window. I can't be bothered getting into the story, but that's why, and that broke it for me. My suspension of disbelief went out the window, and I was reminded I am playing a game. As I mentioned, I feel that is an irrevocable sin created by a fictional piece of work. And yeah, I just thought, I love Final Fantasy XV, by the way. I genuinely think it's a great game, but those 2 instances I think are ridiculous. I think they are bad examples of an increasing trend in the video game industry of companies and brands buying up space, buying their own side quests. And yeah, I just think, again, as I say, I don't mind product placement, but that was done very poorly in my mind. And that's the final game I'm going to talk about today, though. And I will leave it there. But as you can see from this video, there is actually some product placement that can be good and can make the games feel real, particularly if it's set within the real world. But when they're set in a fictional world, such as Dark and Sky or Final Fantasy, it can be, like, shattering. It can absolutely crumple your disbelief. And I think we need to be aware of that, and we need to make sure that we don't go too far down that rabbit hole, because I understand that it can help offset the costs, in some cases, greatly. But yeah, I think it's something we need to be careful of, and it's a trend I'm seeing more and more of, and it's kind of irritating me. Speaking of which, actually, my next video I'm planning on doing trends within the gaming industry, which are frustrating me, and trends that I'm concerned about as well. So yeah, if you think that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please subscribe and hit the bell so you'll get a notification when that comes up. If not, obviously, I'm not begging you for that, but if you do, that would be great. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. If you don't want to go that far, please do give the video a like. It really does help with the algorithm, and I'm still quite a new channel. I'm still struggling for that visibility, and that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. If you like my videos and you want to watch more, then one will pop up on screen now, and that's been chosen by YouTube, and they think it's the one you'll like the most. But if you've got this far, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you next time. You stay safe, and thank you again.